Imagine a world shrouded in darkness, a stretch of land crisscrossed by rivers, untouched by modern cities, the cradle of civilization in Mesopotamia. No one suspects that ancient voices whisper within the dusty ruins, until in the 19th century, archaeologists and linguists discover graffiti carved into clay tablets on steep cliffs and in palaces. With each deciphered cuneiform symbol, it becomes clear. Here, our earliest ancestors speak of a pantheon not made of mere myths, but of powerful celestial beings, the Anunnaki. When Henry Rawlinson deciphered the famous Behistun inscriptions in 1843, he opened a window into a hidden past. The strange, wedge-shaped symbols began to speak of gods who dwelled beyond the stars and of cities that flourished 5,000 years ago. Just a few decades later, hundreds of clay tablets were excavated in Nineveh, archaic documents stored on dusty shelves, until George Smith read the first 7 tablets aloud in 1872. His audience held its breath as they heard how Gilgamesh, the legendary king, sought the secret of immortality, and then learned of a colossal flood sent by the gods. But the true sensation lies in the subplots. In fragments of the Enuma Elish, names appear that are older and more powerful than any human. Anu, Enlil, Marduk. Their children, the Anunnaki, descend from the heavens, shape kings, bestow knowledge, and assign workers to mine ores. From these ancient texts emerges a myth that blurs the lines between archaeology and science fiction. Today, as we study historical photographs in libraries or search online databases for new cuneiform discoveries, we feel the magic of that first decipherment. It is the moment when the gods come back to life, and we realize that the Sumerians did not merely leave us a writing system, but a key to a narrated universe where heaven and earth meet. In the haze of ancient desert landscapes between the banks of the Euphrates and Tigris, there once lived a people whose voices we knew only as dusty footprints. No one understood their language. No one knew what wisdom lay dormant in their stone reliefs, until a British officer brought the first light into the darkness in 1843. Henry Rawlinson stood before a massive rock face in what is now Iran, upon which a royal message was engraved in 3 different languages, the Behistun inscription. But beneath the Greek and Persian lines was a third script, wedge-shaped carvings that had long been considered an eternal mystery. Rawlinson, his gloved hands tracing the cold stone surface, began copying the patterns. For days he murmured over the same wedges and strokes, until he realized they formed a language, rich in vowel clusters and chains of consonants that concealed the cadence of a lost civilization. As a linguist, he painstakingly deciphered the first words: king, heaven, gods, victory. Each decoded term was like a key unlocking the first lock of that ancient archive. In the decades that followed, expeditions poured into Mesopotamia. British, French, and German teams excavated in Nineveh and Ur, in Eridu and Larsa. Archaeologists uncovered shattered bricks, pressed tablet after tablet of cuneiform into their surfaces. Beneath the ruins of ancient palaces, they found libraries of clay, bursting with royal correspondence, temple rituals, and astronomical notes. These tablets, often larger than the palm of a hand, were so diverse in style and content that the first scholars began to wonder, are we truly ready for the history our ancestors have left behind? In 1872, George Smith, a rising philologist at the British Museum, achieved a breakthrough sensation. He identified the Epic of Gilgamesh within a series of lost clay tablets, a 7-poem cycle in which a semi-mythical king seeks immortality. On December 3rd, he read these lines aloud for the first time, and the audience felt as if an ancient voice whispered into their ears, telling them they too were part of this timeless longing. The story of the flood, the ark, and salvation rang eerily familiar. The Sumerian flood narrative described a monolith of rescue and divine foresight, etched into clay 2,000 years before Moses. But it wasn't only mythological epics that rose from the depths. Cuneiform revealed records of grain storage, complex legal codes, rosters of priests, and instructional letters to students. One inserted astronomical forecast suggests that as early as 3000 BCE, the Sumerians calculated the seasons with remarkable accuracy. Solstices, equinoxes, and star risings were recorded down to the exact minute. This level of precision commands awe, for what lay before us was not vague declarations of belief, but a sober chronicle born from sharp observation and administrative ambition. With each deciphered symbol, the mosaic of our collective origins grew. The Sumerians revealed themselves not as a primitive ancient people, but as pioneers of writing, urban planning, and mathematics. Their gods were not merely invisible heroes, but active agents, living and dying within richly adorned archetypes. Anu, Enlil, Enki, the great triad, divided heaven and earth, water and life. Their children, the Anunnaki, were described in the Cuneiform as guardians and judges, physical beings who guided the fate of humanity. Today we stand at a crossroads. Thanks to modern imaging technology, we can restore faded tablet fragments to visibility. Thanks to digital archives, the knowledge of our ancestors is available to us in real time. But the great question remains: how will we use this legacy? Will we gaze upon it like tourists in a museum, or will we recognize in it the mirror of our own destiny? The Sumerians gave us more than language and cities. They gifted us the very awareness of what it means to be a culture, and they challenge us to pass that gift forward with wisdom and care. Our journey has only just begun. The deciphered cuneiform tablets are merely the first step into a labyrinth of myth and science. Ahead of us lie tales of Gilgamesh, hymns to Ishtar, and formulas for the earth. But at the root of all understanding stand those first brave pioneers, Rawlinson, Smith, and the countless excavators, who opened the great gate to the world, Sumer, carved in stone, ready to reveal to us the cradle of our civilization. Around 4,100 years ago, as palaces of mud brick glowed in the morning light of Mesopotamia, the Sumerians inscribed their greatest myths onto cuneiform tablets, the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish. Within them echo primal fears and timeless hopes, the longing for immortality, the quest for cosmic order, and the birth of a pantheon that would later enter world literature as the Anunnaki. Gilgamesh, king of Uruk and two-thirds divine, began his journey as a young ruler full of arrogance. His people complained of his tyranny until the father of the gods, Anu, intervened, sending him Enkidu, a primordial wild man, as a challenger. But confrontation turned to friendship, and Gilgamesh became a seeker of meaning. When Enkidu died from a plague sent by the gods as punishment, Gilgamesh came to understand the fleeting nature of all beauty. He resolved to answer the call of immortality and set out on a journey to the ends of the world, beyond storm-racked mountains and ghostly sages. On the shores of the waters of life, he met Utnapishtim, the one chosen by the gods who had once survived the great flood. From his stories, Gilgamesh learned that immortality was reserved for the gods alone. Yet he was given a key, a plant beneath the waves that promised the renewal of youth. Gilgamesh found the plant, but a cunning serpent stole it from him on his journey back to Uruk. The tragedy of his failure revealed the essence of Sumerian wisdom. Eternity does not lie in time itself, but in the structures, legends, and deeds we leave behind. Parallel to Gilgamesh's journey, the Enuma Elish emerged, the Babylonian creation epic in which the pantheon experienced a dramatic genesis. In the beginning of time, only the primordial beings existed: Mother Tiamat, salt water, and Father Apsu, fresh water. Their union gave birth to generations of gods whose youthful rebellion drove Apsu into a furious rage. He sought to destroy them, but the children launched a preemptive strike. Ea, the god of wisdom, killed Apsu and built his citadel atop the slain father. But Tiamat, enraged by the death of her consort, forged an army of monsters and appointed her new mate, Kingu, as commander. The gods chose Marduk, the young god of storm and water, as their champion. Armed with storm blades and the net of justice, he defeated Tiamat, tore her body in two, and fashioned from one half the heavens and from the other the earth. He took King's blood and, mixing it with clay, shaped the first human pair, Adam and Eve, made in the image of the divine, destined to serve and honor the gods. Both Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish mention the Anunnaki, those divine lineages known as the children of heaven, Anu, and earth, Kai. In Gilgamesh, they appear as assemblies that ratify judgments and push mortals into the afterlife. In the Enuma Elish, Anu presides over the heirs of Tiamat and blesses Marduk with the scepter and dominion. Their presence reflects an early conception of a cosmic hierarchy. Anu as the supreme sky god, Enlil as lord of the winds, Ea as ruler of the waters, and Marduk as the emerging force of order. In later Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki are stylized as physical beings, astronaut gods said to have descended from the heavens. While these early epics rarely mention technology, they open a window into a world where gods and humans exist in close, sometimes conflict-laden connection. These texts were far more than poetry. They were instructional manuals for temple priests and gardeners, city planners and seafarers. The inscriptions of Gilgamesh were etched into the walls of Uruk, reminding citizens of virtue and mortality. A priest in training might give a recitation explaining the proper sequence of offerings during the festival of the storm god Marduk, based on the Enuma Elish. Clay tablets that combined grain prices with celestial positions bear witness to a civilization that understood myth and science as a unified whole. As the Babylonian Empire fell and Assyrian and Persian dynasties took control of the region, the myths began to merge. The Gilgamesh stories were adapted into Akkadian, and the Enuma Elish creation myth became part of the royal cult. The Anunnaki evolved. In the Hebrew Bible, they appear as the sons of God, Book of Jubilees, and in Greek philosophy as archaic demons. To this day, their legend permeates popular culture, appearing in novels, films, and conspiracy theories. Yet their core remains unchanged. The gods are not distant ideals, but co-creators of our destiny. They helped us cloak our primal fears of death and chaos in stories that endure. In these epics, we uncover the roots of all our questions. Where do we come from? Where are we going? And who is the architect of our being? Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish are more than ancient poetry. They are foundations upon which our culture rests. Within their lines, windows open to a time when writing was empowerment and gods were giants. The Anunnaki, born from the stylus of cybernetic priests, stand as symbols of that longing which drives us to reach for the stars and dream the impossible. Today, when we stand before Sumerian tablets in museums, their brittle clay touches us like the echo of distant drums. Every stroke, every fragment brings us closer to that primordial age when humanity first cast its destiny into words, etched in stone and fired in clay for all time. In this way, the legacy of our Sumerian ancestors lives on, as silent teachers whose voices we must decipher to understand who we are and who we might yet become. In the 1970s, a voice emerged that transformed the image of the Anunnaki from scholarly deities into cosmic engineers. The self-proclaimed Sumerian translator Zecharia Sitchin, a self-taught scholar of Old Persian and Akkadian, He claimed that the Cuneiform tablets did not contain mythological allegories, but records of extraterrestrial astronauts who came to Earth in search of gold. This golden narrative ignited a wave of pseudoscientific enthusiasm and introduced the concept of Nibiru, a hypothetical 12th planet said to enter our solar system every 3,600 years. Born in 1922 in Baku, Sitchin turned to self-study after working as a journalist and businessman. Without formal academic training in Assyriology or Near Eastern studies, he began memorizing cuneiform dictionaries and creating his own translations. In 1976, he published his first book, The 12th Planet, in which he interpreted the clay tablets from Nippur and other Sumerian excavation sites as accounts of a technocratic alien civilization. Sitchin did not translate the Sumerian word Nibiru as crossing or key star, as is commonly accepted, but instead interpreted it as the name of a planet with an elliptical orbit. In his version, Nibiru was the homeworld of the Anunnaki, an extraterrestrial race that he claimed arrived on Earth 450,000 years ago. He asserted that Nibiru possessed an unusual axial tilt and orbital eccentricity, elements later echoed in astronomical discussions under the Planet X hypothesis. However, Sitchin ignored any scientific discoveries that contradicted his claims and instead loosely linked them to modern reports concerning the speculative Planet 9. At the heart of Sitchin's narrative lies the gold mining story. On Nibiru, the Anunnaki were said to suffer from a catastrophic ozone depletion. Only particles of gold dust in the atmosphere could absorb the harmful radiation. To solve this crisis, expeditions were sent to Earth, whose underground riches were abundant in gold. To carry out the labor-intensive mining, early human ancestors were allegedly genetically modified. Thus, the creation of Adam and Eve as the first working machines. Sitchin's genetic model blends biology and technology into a pseudoscientific origin story. Scholars and Assyriologists have repeatedly and emphatically rejected Sitchin's claims. They point out that Nibiru in Cuneiform is more accurately translated as crossing star or point of transition, and that Sumerian texts contain no precise descriptions of planetary orbits. His translations are largely fabricated or based on misreadings of cuneiform signs. Genetic experts also dismiss his ideas of DNA manipulation as unfounded speculation with no basis in science. Nevertheless, Sitchin's narrative remained popular, largely because it intuitively resonated with modern sci-fi myths and the collective fascination with ancient astronauts and cosmic origins. Thanks to mass-market-friendly presentations in books and documentaries, Sitchin's vision took hold in New Age circles, UFO research communities, and conspiracy theory subcultures. Web forums were named after Nibiru by self-proclaimed Terminators. Internet communities interpreted Planet 9 research findings as evidence of Anunnaki visitations, and YouTube videos attract viewers with supposed Sumerian proof. While serious academic research largely ignores Sitchin, his golden narrative has developed its own cultural momentum, an alternative mythology thriving at the intersection of science fiction, speculation, and spiritual longing. Zecharia Sitchin died in 2010, but the narrative he unleashed lives on. It teaches us that myths are not only born of the past, they also emerge from the present. Sitchin wove together ancient texts with modern longings for origin, technology, and transcendence. His success reveals the power of compelling storytelling, capable of bridging historical uncertainty with futuristic imagination. The golden narrative of the Anunnaki serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us to be wary of seemingly plausible stories that shimmer like gold dust, yet rest on fragile foundations. Anyone seeking to understand Sumer must take archaeology, philology, and genetics seriously, not the allure of sensationalism. And yet Sitchin's work remains a fascinating chapter in the history of how we mythologically rewrite our past and narratively project it into the future. Coming up in the next chapter, we explore how modern astronomy intersects with the Nibiru myth through Planet 9 research, and what lessons this convergence offers us about the relationship between science and imagination. When Zecharia Sitchin revived the myth of Nibiru in the 1970s, his interpretations formed a bridge between ancient Cuneiform texts and futuristic scenarios. While his work was based on self-published translations, astronomy was, in parallel, beginning a serious search for traces of a still unknown planet. At the center of this modern quest is Planet 9, a hypothetical world beyond Neptune and Pluto, whose possible existence has intrigued astronomers and unexpectedly brought the ancient Nibiru myth back into the spotlight. The story began in November 2003 with the discovery of 2003 VB12 at the Palomar Observatory. This trans-Neptunian object followed an extremely eccentric orbit, so unusual that even the outer edges of the solar system struggled to account for it. Sedna's perihelion lay at 76 astronomical units, while its aphelion stretched to nearly 1,000 astronomical units. No known object behaved this way, and scientists soon realized that the gravitational influence of a single massive body beyond Neptune could explain such an orbit. But Sedna was only the beginning. In the years that followed, astronomers discovered 4 more trans-Neptunian objects: 2012 VP113, 2015 TG387, 2014 UZ224, and others, all with orbital axes that seemed to point in the same direction, as if being shepherded by an unseen presence. Their orbital planes were similarly tilted, and their major axes aligned closely in space. By 2016, simulations showed that the probability of this occurring by chance was just 0.007%. In January 2016, Mike Brown and Konstantin Batygin of Caltech presented the results of their computer simulations. A hypothetical world, Planet 9, with a mass between 5 and 10 times that of Earth, orbiting on a highly elliptical path ranging from approximately 400 to 800 astronomical units, could account for the observed orbital anomalies. According to their models, the statistical match was over 99.99%. Planet 9 would be an ice giant, possibly a super-Earth or mini-Neptune type, cloaked in a thick mantle of methane and ammonia ice. The real challenge lies in directly observing this distant giant. With an apparent brightness between 20 to 23 magnitude, Planet 9 hovers at the edge of what current telescopes can detect. The Vera Rubin Observatory, LSST, which began operations in Chile in 2023, now offers new hope. Equipped with an 8.4-meter mirror and capable of rapidly surveying vast areas of the sky, it can capture hundreds of square degrees per night, making it possible to identify subtle tracklets that might reveal a large, slowly moving celestial body. Combined with infrared searches from the Subaru telescope and upcoming space missions like Euclid and Roman, the chances of finally bringing Planet 9 into view are looking increasingly promising. Hardly had the scientific community begun to seriously consider the Planet 9 hypothesis when conspiracy theorists seized upon Sitchin's Nibiru narrative once again. In online forums and YouTube channels, they tried to interpret the gravitational disturbances of Kuiper Belt objects as omens. The mythical planet, they claimed, was on a near collision course with Earth, set to trigger catastrophic events ranging from massive earthquakes to a global flood. Some spoke of a 3,600-year cycle, while others warned of an imminent Nibiru apocalypse. But mainstream science responds clearly. Planet 9 lies far beyond Neptune's orbit, reaching no closer than roughly 400 astronomical units at its perihelion, nowhere near the inner planets, and certainly not on a collision path with Earth. Moreover, its orbital period is not exactly 3,600 years, but estimated between 10,000 and 20,000 years. Sitchin's Nibiru tale lacks original textual evidence from authentic Sumerian sources and remains to this day a modern myth built on mistranslation and imagination. Despite all refutations, the Nibiru narrative remains a powerful myth. It reveals how we weave primal fears of cosmic threats together with ancient mythology and project them into popular culture. Novels, documentaries, and sci-fi formats toy with the idea that a hidden sibling of our sun may one day return, but the true drama lies within the realm of science. Discovering Planet 9 would revolutionize our understanding of planetary formation and migration, challenging long-held models of how our solar system evolved. The search continues, and it bridges two worlds: the rigorous methods of astrophysics and the creative power of myth. Planet 9 may never be a Nibiru in the sense Sitchin imagined, but its discovery would reveal how we reinterpret humanity's primal stories when fact and fiction collide. It is an invitation to take legends seriously as reflections of our spiritual longing, while also subjecting them to critical scrutiny. In the next video, we'll explore the social and cultural implications of Planet 9 research and how we can learn to distinguish between real science and captivating fiction. Over the course of 4 chapters, we've taken a journey from the first deciphered cuneiform inscriptions through Gilgamesh's immortal longing to Sitchin's golden yet deceptive Nibiru vision, and finally to the modern hunt for Planet 9. Along the way, one thing became clear: myth and science inform one another, yet they serve fundamentally different purposes. Myths like the Anunnaki narrative are mirrors of our primal fears and hopes. They feed our need to grasp the bigger picture. Where do we come from? Who guides our fate? The Sumerian creation epics offered answers through divine battles and celestial interventions. Thousands of years later, Sitchin wove these threads into a gripping story of alien engineers and genetic manipulation. Science, by contrast, is built on observation, reproducibility, and evidence. The Planet 9 hypothesis, for instance, is grounded in concrete astronomical observations, statistical analysis, and computer-based orbital simulations. It can be falsified, it makes testable predictions, and it remains humble in the face of uncertain data. When we clearly separate fact from fiction, we unlock the full potential of both. Myths inspire our imagination and open doors to new questions. Science provides the map on which we explore and test those questions. The Anunnaki narrative teaches us that it's okay to remain curious, but always with a critical eye, so that legend does not become misinformation. In the end, one truth remains: the Sumerians carved in stone how they saw their world and their gods. Today, modern methods allow us to look deeper. While honoring those ancient stories, we continue writing our own. Follow me on Facebook to keep exploring together and to sharpen the lens through which we view both facts and fiction.